Hi guys, what's going on? So today we're going to be building a pedal board together. We're going to go through step by step on how to put my new pedal board together. We're going to talk about what all these pedals are and everything, what you need to build the pedal board, and what order all these pedals should go in. So to start off with, we're going to talk about what order your pedals should go in for the pedal board. So there's no real hard rules for this, apart from I'd say your tuner has to go first, because that way you get the cleanest signal going into the tuner and nothing's going to throw it off. So apart from that, there is kind of like a guide order or like a most common way to put them together, which is how we're going to put this one together with today. But if you put your pedals together like this, it's then easy to experiment and swap a few around and see how that's going to affect the sound you're getting. Okay, so like I said, the first one is going to be our tuner, and then after that we're going to have things like pitch, wah, phase, anything that's actually going to affect the frequency of the signal. So already we've come across something that some people like to do differently. Some people like to put their wah after their distortion pedals because it gives a slightly different or slightly cleaner frequency sweep. But the most common place is here where we talk about the second in the chain after the tuner. So then we move on to compression. So compression isn't kind of an essential guitar effect. You're not going to find it on everyone's pedal board. You might not have a compression pedal. If you have one or you're going to use it, this is where it would go. Some compression pedals can be really noisy. You can help cut that noise down by putting them again later on in the chain after your distortion pedals. So after that, we come on to the fun pedals. This is going to be distortion, fuzz, overdrive, any kind of gain stage pedal. So it's going to be quite common to have a few of these on a board. I have 3 on all my boards. I've got 1 distortion pedal and then 2 overdrive pedals. I set them up with the overdrives first and then have the distortion after them. You might find it a little different way works for you. That's kind of the way I like to do it, because I think of my distortion as being my amp, and then very rarely do I stack all these pedals, but if I do, then I feel like the overdrive driving into distortion, it kind of just makes more sense in a very kind of basic way. But sometimes I don't know what amp I'm going to be using for a gig, so that's just how I think of it. So then we've got EQ. If you're going to use an EQ pedal, this is where it would go. It's not, I don't really see EQ as an essential effect for a pedal board. I don't use one. I know a lot of people that don't use them, but I do know some people that do. If you're going to use one, this is the place to put it, because that allows you to shape everything that's coming for it, all your overdrives and distortion and everything like that. It's going to really allow you to fine tune that, and if you want extra mids or something to help you cut through, it's gonna add them in most effectively here. So that's going to take care of all the effects going in the front of the amp. So far we've got our guitar, then our tuner, and then we've got wah, pitch, etc. And then we've got compression, then we're going to have distortion, and then we've got EQ, and then we've got into the front of our amp input. If you haven't got an effects loop on the amp, this order still applies, but you just ignore the part where we go to the effects loop and you just keep running it down. So you go straight from EQ into what we're going to talk about next. So now we're talking about the effects loop. This is a place we can kind of deviate from what we've talked about before. You can put your pitch as the first thing in the effects loop. What that's going to do is give you a cleaner distortion sound. Some pedals, especially older pedals, they're not going to like things like Digitech whammy pedals and things like that. And when people complain that they feel like the whammy pedal sucks their tone a lot, it does a little bit because of how it works, but sometimes it's because they've not got it in the right place for their pedal board. So and a lot of the things we're talking about, they are very dependent on specific pedals and setups. So you might find just by moving your pitch pedal to the effects loop, especially if you're using a lot of distortion pedals or some old ones, you might find you just get a bit of a cleaner, more pleasant distortion sound. So that's just something to keep in mind. So after that, we've got modulation. For me, this is the first stop in my effects loop. This is where I put my chorus pedal. Modulation effects like chorus, flange, everything like that. After that, we're going to have a gate. If you're going to use a gate, this is a good place to drop it in, just because it's going to help clean up everything that's come before it. And that's going to allow a nice, clean, quiet signal to feed into our delay and reverb pedals, which is going to help us get the most out of them. At the moment, I don't currently use a noise gate because I'm not doing sort of high gain stuff or anything that I feel really needs it, and I'm not getting too much excess noise from anywhere. So with a noise gate, you might find you want to do a bit of experimenting, because if you've got a pedal that's creating a lot of excess noise or anything like that, you might find dropping that gate somewhere else in the chain is going to help clean that up. And if you want to use it to get a specific sound, something like a modern high gain metal sound, that super tight gated sound, Then again, putting that somewhere else might help you just nail that tone a little bit more. For me though, even when I've done super high gain metal stuff, I've always put my gate in at this spot just because it's just given me the results I've wanted and needed. So after that, we're going to have delay pedals and then reverb. That's pretty self-explanatory with those. There's a good place to put them delay first, then reverb, because then you're not going to get a really like washed out delay sound because you haven't got a washy reverb sound triggering those delay repeats, if that makes sense. So that's the end of the effects loop, then that's going back into the amp. So I've just talked about kind of the most common effects and what is probably the most common way to set all of them up. This is how I have my pedal boards set up, just because I know this is going to do the job I want them to do. My pedal boards are set up so I can just pick one up, take it to a gig, put it down, plug it all in, and I'm ready to go, whether it's with my amp or someone else's amp. I have done a lot of experimenting, but I've not really found anything that works for me as well as this way, unless I want to do something really specific. So if I want a really ambient, washy board that I'm going to use to write ambient music with, then that's a whole different setup. But then I'm using a lot of different pedals instead of more generic kind of layout. So like I said before, if you haven't got an effects loop, you just run through this order as it is and just ignore the bit where we said we're going to the effects loop. So what we're going to do is just run through everything I've got on the table here. This is like the actual stuff you need to build your board. And then we're going to have a quick recap of the order by putting my pedals on the board so you can kind of see what it looks like on a pedal board that is going to be taken out on the road and gigged. So you're going to need a pedal board first of all. I really like these Temple Audio pedal boards because instead of having Velcro to mount your pedals, which is what you most commonly use, you get these panels with it. And what they do is they just stick on the bottom of the pedal. They've got a screw underneath, you unscrew that, put it on through one of these holes and then tighten it up and it holds the pedal in place. They just don't move. And it's really good if you buy into the system. It makes switching out pedals just so simple. I mean, luckily I have bought into the kind of the Temple system. So if I decide one day, oh, I want to take this pedal off and put something else on, it is just a case of just unplugging it, undoing one screw, taking it out, putting the other one on, putting the screw back in and then plugging them in. It's really quick and easy and you don't have to faff around with different size Velcro or anything like that. And another good thing is the cabling. A lot of the cabling for this goes underneath. So I just pretty much turn up, put my guitar on one side of the pedal board. I don't plug it into the pedals, plug it into the side of the pedal board, front of the amp, goes in, and then I've got send and return for effects loop. Again, it's just little things like that that just make setup and pack down just that bit easier and quicker. Next thing you're going to need is patch cables. If you're like me and you love pedals, you're probably going to need a lot of them. I really like these American stage cables by Planet Waves and Daddario. I use them for all my cables. I've never been let down by one of them. I've used the same set of cables for 5 years and I've never had to reach for any of my spares. My spares are still in the packaging. So I absolutely love them. High quality cables like these as well, they do help keep noise down as much as possible. So something that is going to make a big difference to the noise is your power supply. You do not want to scrimp on your power supply. It's something that is worth spending the money on because it's going to eliminate as much noise as possible. And if you get something like this Walrus Audio Phoenix, it's got 15 outputs. A lot of pedals, power supplies, they top out at about 9. So I want to expand my pedal board. If I've got 9, I've got to buy another power supply or a different one that's bigger. This has got 15. I'm never going to use more than 15 pedals. It also allows me to run all my pedals at the correct voltage and the correct milliamps, which is going to help them last as long as possible and sound their best. So, and then you're going to need some pedals. I'm sure you've got your own lovely collection of pedals. So I've picked out these pedals to be used with my Victory Sheriff 44. This board is specifically for using with my band in the studio and playing live. So I've picked them out all to do a certain purpose and to be used with a certain amp. My other pedal board, that's a bit more generic in the sense that it's more like my grab and go board. I can just go grab that and go and play a gig with it. So let's start looking at what my chain is going to be looking like. So first of all, Boss TU3 tuner. It's a tuning pedal. It goes faster. So as I said right at the start of the video, this is just a guide. This is a good starting point. I'm going to slightly bend what we talked about. So I'm going to have an EP booster next. Even though you'd consider it a boost pedal because you can crank it up and drive stuff quite hard with it. Because of how I use it, I put it earlier in the chain because I leave it rolled almost all the way off and I'll step on it and I'll leave it on for entire songs. Just because of the way it helps boost the signal and lift the signal, just warms it up a bit. So I put that then after my tuner. because then that nice warm lifted signal gets fed into my compressor, my overdrives, everything like that. So then after our exotic EP booster, we've got an Earthquake Devices, the Warden compressor. That's coming next. So after that, we've got some gain. I've got 2 overdrive pedals and a distortion pedal. I've got the exotic BB preamp coming next in the chain. This is absolutely my favourite pedal on the planet. I absolutely love this pedal. I use this to do low mid-gain lead stuff. Then I've got the exotic SL drive, almost dropped it. I use this for the opposite. If I want to go super high gain, get some shreddy lead going, that's what I use. Absolute monster of a pedal. So then after that, I've got my Emerson Pomeroy custom distortion pedal. When I bought this, I didn't really know anything about the company or about this pedal. I just saw a couple of bits online and I thought, that looks cool, I'll take a chance. So I bought it and I'm so happy with it. It sounds really good. It's got a lot of tweakability on it. It's a really interesting pedal. I don't want to go too much into it now because I'm going to be doing a demo video of it in the future. But you should definitely check it out. It sounds great. So that's the end of my pedals that go in the front of the amp. I don't use an EQ pedal. So then we've got what goes in the effects loop. So we've got modulation first. This is going to be chorus pedal. I've got the Keeley Electronics Dyno My Roto. It's a tri-chorus rotary rotor flange pedal all in one. Those effects aren't stackable or kind of changeable on the fly. They're on a little dip switch in the middle. All the effects sound great, but I bought it for the tri-chorus sound because it sounds mega. Then after that, I've got 2 delay pedals before going into my reverb. First one is the Strymon Brigadier Bucket Brigade pedal. This is what I call like the everyday delay. So this is going to be the delay that gets chucked on a clean sound just to add some depth and kind of space to it. And if you want some repeats on your lead just to make it sing that bit extra, this is what I'm using. I chose this because I'm a big fan of like Eric Johnson, Andy Timmons, and I know they use Memory Men, well, they use old Memory Men on their lead sounds. I chose this because this is going to be a lot more reliable than an old Memory Man and probably cheaper. Then second delay pedal is a Walrus Audio pedal. It's the ARP87. This is pretty much for everything that's not your everyday delay. This is going to be all the spacey, big washy sounds that I need for some of our songs. This just sounds great for that. Both those delay pedals got tap tempo on them just to make life easier. Some of the delay stuff we do has to be at a certain time. So then we've got the MXR reverb pedal. This is a great sounding reverb pedal that doesn't take up a lot of space on your pedal board. Basically got 2 sounds I use from it. I've got one that just adds a little bit of space to everything that I leave on all the time. And there's a few songs where I'll bend down in between and I'll just put it on epic mode just to get a nice big washy sound. So that's everything that's going on my pedal board. That's pedal board done. So hopefully you found this video helpful and it's cleared up a few questions about how to put a pedal board together and kind of what order you should be putting these things in. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments section below or go to the video description, find my Facebook or Instagram in there, head over there and drop me a message and I'll answer you that way. I'm going to be doing another video in the future that is running this through my amp so you can hear how all these pedals sound and how they all work together. Thanks so much for watching. Cheers. Bye.